Well, in 1912, there was 8 people murdered in this house with an axe, and the murder's never been solved.
True crime has always captivated the public's imagination, from the most infamous serial killers to high-profile unsolved mysteries. However, not all criminal cases make it into the spotlight. There are countless chilling cases that have remained obscure, some slipping through the cracks of public attention, but their horrors are no less haunting. In this video, we will dive into 10 chilling true crime cases that you may have never heard of, but are just as disturbing and tragic as the most notorious crimes in history. 1. The Villisca Axe Murders, 1912. The Villisca Axe murders occurred in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, and remain one of the most unsettling, unsolved crimes in American history. On the night of June 9, 1912, 6 members of the Moore family and 2 young houseguests were brutally murdered in their sleep with an axe. The killer, who was never caught, took great care to cover the mirrors and windows of the house and placed a slab of bacon on the floor, adding an eerie touch to the gruesome crime scene. Despite several theories and a few suspects, including a man named Reverend George Kelly, the case remains unsolved. The mystery surrounding the motive and the killer's disturbing behavior continues to haunt the town and criminal enthusiasts to this day. 2. The Hinterkaifeck Murders, 1922. In rural Germany, the Hinterkaifeck murders are a chilling reminder of how a seemingly peaceful farm can become the scene of horrific violence. In 1922, 6 members of the Gruber family and their maid were murdered on their farm. The killer, or killers, seemed to have lived in the house for several days after committing the murders, feeding the animals and using the family's belongings. Despite numerous investigations and a variety of theories, including that a family member was involved, the identity of the murderer remains a mystery. The eerie circumstances, including strange noises and unexplained footsteps in the snow leading to the house, have led many to believe the farm is haunted. No one was ever arrested, and the case remains unsolved. 3. The Ketty Cabin Murders, 1981. The Ketty Cabin murders occurred in a remote cabin in Ketty, California, and have perplexed investigators for decades. On April 11, 1981, a mother, Sue Sharp, and 2 of her children, Tina and John, were brutally murdered in their cabin. Sue's eldest daughter, Sheila, discovered the bodies, but Tina was missing. For years, the case was considered unsolvable, until new evidence and DNA testing led investigators to believe that the murders were linked to a group of individuals who had previously committed violent crimes. Tina's body was found in a nearby town years later, but the perpetrators have never been brought to justice, leaving this horrific crime unresolved. 4. The Isdal Woman, 1970. The case of the Isdal woman, discovered in 1970 in Norway, remains one of the most mysterious unsolved cases in Europe. The body of an unidentified woman was found in a remote valley, with evidence suggesting that she had been deliberately burned. The woman's clothes were meticulously cut and altered, and her possessions were found scattered in various locations. Despite extensive investigations, no one has ever been able to identify the woman or determine the cause of her death. Some theories suggest she may have been involved in espionage or had ties to organized crime, but the true story remains one of Europe's most chilling mysteries. 5. The Murder of the Grimes Sisters, 1956. The Grimes sisters, Barbara and Patricia, disappeared in December 1956 after attending a movie in Chicago. They were found dead, several miles from where they were last seen, 2 months later. The cause of their deaths was determined to be homicide, but the case remained unsolved for years. In the decades that followed, the case was filled with dead-end leads and speculative theories. Some believed that the girls had been abducted, while others suspected that they were victims of a serial killer. New DNA evidence has recently suggested that there may have been a connection to a known suspect, but the case is still officially unresolved. 6. The Long Island Serial Killer, 2000s present. The Long Island serial killer, also known as the Gilgo Beach Killer, is an unknown individual believed to be responsible for the murders of at least 10 people, most of whom were sex workers. The bodies were discovered along a remote stretch of highway on Long Island, New York, starting in 2010. Despite multiple investigations and the discovery of a suspect's DNA, the killer remains at large. The eerie nature of the case, with the bodies being found in close proximity to each other, and the killer's potential to have been active for many years, has led to widespread speculation that the Long Island serial killer may be a person with an intimate knowledge of the area. Authorities are still actively investigating the case, but the killer has yet to be identified. 7. The disappearance of the Sodder children, 1945. On Christmas Eve 1945, a fire destroyed the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. 5 of the Sodder children were never found after the fire, despite no remains being discovered in the rubble. The parents, George and Jenny Sodder, believed that their children had been kidnapped before the fire, as there were many strange occurrences in the days leading up to the tragedy, including a phone call and an unusual vehicle seen near their home. Despite several theories and an extensive investigation, the fate of the Sodder children remains unknown. The case remains open to this day, with many questioning whether the fire was an accident or part of a larger conspiracy to hide the children's abduction. 8. The Boy in the Box, 1957. In 1957, the body of an unidentified young boy was discovered in a cardboard box in Philadelphia. He was estimated to be around 4 to 6 years old and had been severely beaten. Despite widespread media coverage and the efforts of investigators, the boy's identity remained a mystery for decades. In recent years, advancements in forensic DNA technology have renewed interest in the case, but the boy's identity is still unknown, and no one has ever been charged with his death. The case has captured the public's imagination, as the question remains: who was this young boy, and why was he killed? 9. The Swindon Poisoning, 1971. The Swindon poisoning case is one of the lesser-known true crime cases from England, but its chilling nature has made it a subject of intrigue for true crime enthusiasts. In 1971, a group of 6 individuals was poisoned after consuming food at a social gathering. The food had been laced with a toxic substance, causing immediate symptoms of illness. Fortunately, most of the victims survived, but one died. The case is particularly unsettling because it was believed that the poisoning was committed by someone close to the victims. Although several suspects were questioned, the case remains unsolved, and the identity of the person responsible has never been discovered. This case has often been overshadowed by more high-profile crimes, but remains a chilling example of the dangers of betrayal and poison. 10. The Murder of Kendrick Johnson, 2013. In 2013, 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson was found dead inside a rolled-up gym mat in his high school gymnasium in Valdosta, Georgia. The initial ruling was that Johnson had accidentally suffocated while trying to retrieve his shoe from the mat, but suspicions arose when investigators found evidence that suggested foul play, including unexplained injuries to his body. The case took on national attention when Johnson's family alleged that the local authorities had covered up a possible homicide, and that the killers may have been classmates or even local law enforcement officers. Despite multiple investigations and efforts to seek justice, the true circumstances surrounding Johnson's death remain unclear, making it one of the most disturbing cases in recent American true crime history. True crime is full of unsolved mysteries and chilling cases that never receive the attention they deserve. From the eerie and unresolved murders of the Gruber family in Hinterkaifeck to the strange disappearance of Kendrick Johnson, these chilling cases remind us that some mysteries may never be solved. While the stories of these individuals may remain hidden from the broader public, their horrors and unanswered questions continue to haunt those who dig into these dark chapters of criminal history. If you found these lesser-known true crime cases disturbing and intriguing, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more chilling deep dives into the world of crime. Your support helps us continue to uncover stories that need to be heard.